If you've been feeling exhausted for no clear reason, if you've noticed your body changing in ways that don't make sense, if you've been lying awake at 3 in the morning with your mind racing and your heart pounding, and if no doctor has ever given you a real explanation for any of it, then what I'm about to share with you in the next few minutes may be the most important thing you'll hear all year. Please, don't leave this video. My name is Dr. Eleanor Whitaker. I've spent over 2 decades working with women in the field of hormonal health and internal medicine. I've sat across from thousands of women, brilliant, strong, accomplished women who came to me feeling broken, feeling like strangers in their own bodies. Women who had been told by their doctors that everything was within normal range. Women who had been handed antidepressants when what they actually needed was someone to look deeper. And what I found over and over again was not a mystery. It was a pattern, a very specific, very predictable pattern that conventional medicine continues to miss, or worse, dismiss. What I'm going to share with you today is what that pattern looks like, what it means, what is actually happening inside your body when you feel the way you feel, and why this matters far more than most women realize. Let me start with a question. When did you last feel like yourself? Not just okay, not just functional, but genuinely energized, clear-headed, comfortable in your own skin. If you have to think hard to remember, that's not a coincidence. And it is not a character flaw. It is a signal. Your body is sending you a signal. And today we are going to learn how to read it. Here is what most women are never told. After the age of 35, a series of hormonal shifts begins in the female body that are gradual, subtle, and almost entirely invisible until suddenly they are not. The 2 primary hormones involved are estrogen and progesterone. These are not simply reproductive hormones. They are master regulators of almost every system in your body. They influence your metabolism, your sleep architecture, your mood, your cognitive function, your cardiovascular health, your bone density, your skin, your gut, your immune response. When they are in balance, everything flows. When they begin to shift, and they always begin to shift, the effects ripple outward into every corner of your health. But here is the part that no one explains clearly enough. This process does not begin at menopause. It begins years, sometimes a decade, before your last period. This phase is called perimenopause, and it is in many ways the most disruptive and the most misunderstood transition in a woman's life. And the reason so many women suffer through it alone is that the symptoms are so wide-ranging, so seemingly unrelated, that neither the woman experiencing them nor her doctor connects the dots. Let me paint you a picture. You are 43 years old. You've always slept reasonably well, but now you're waking up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and you cannot get back to sleep. You're gaining weight around your middle even though you haven't changed what you eat. Your energy crashes in the afternoon, like clockwork. You feel irritable in ways that feel unfamiliar, reactive, short-fused, sometimes tearful for no reason you can name. Your memory feels foggy. You lose words mid-sentence. You feel a low-grade anxiety that sits just below the surface of your day. Sometimes your heart flutters. Sometimes you feel too warm, suddenly, even when everyone else in the room is comfortable. You go to your doctor. Your blood work comes back fine. Your thyroid is normal. Your iron is normal. Your doctor tells you you are healthy. Maybe he or she suggests you're stressed. Maybe you're offered a prescription, and you leave feeling frustrated, dismissed, and if you're honest, a little frightened because something is clearly wrong, and no one seems to know what it is. What no one told you is that conventional blood work, done at a single point in time, almost always misses the early stage hormonal fluctuations of perimenopause. The ranges used are broad. The testing methods are imprecise. Estrogen and progesterone can swing dramatically within a single day, within a single week, and a snapshot blood test taken on a Tuesday morning tells you almost Nothing about what your hormones were doing on Saturday night when you woke up drenched in sweat at 3 a.m. So the picture you were given was incomplete, and the conversation you needed to have never happened. Let's talk about what is actually happening inside your body during this time. Progesterone is typically the first hormone to decline. It begins dropping in your mid to late 30s, often before estrogen shows any significant change. Progesterone is your calming hormone. It is the hormone that supports deep, restorative sleep. It is what quiets the nervous system, reduces anxiety, and helps your brain shift into a state of rest. When progesterone drops, sleep becomes fragmented. Anxiety rises. Mood becomes unstable. The nervous system, without its natural regulator, becomes reactive in ways that feel foreign and frightening. Then estrogen begins its own irregular pattern. In perimenopause, estrogen does not simply decline in a steady, predictable line. It fluctuates. It spikes. It drops. It surges again. This erratic behavior is what causes many of the most disruptive symptoms: hot flashes, night sweats, heart palpitations, mood swings, brain fog. Your body is not broken. It is adjusting. But that adjustment is not comfortable, and without support, it does not have to be this hard. Estrogen also plays a critical role in metabolic function. It helps regulate how your body responds to insulin. It influences where fat is stored. When estrogen becomes erratic and begins its long-term decline, many women notice that their body composition starts to shift, more weight around the abdomen, more difficulty losing it even with diet and exercise. This is not a failure of willpower. This is physiology. And then there is cortisol, your stress hormone, which becomes increasingly dysregulated during this period. The adrenal glands, which produce both cortisol and small amounts of sex hormones, come under increasing demand as the ovaries begin producing less. When you add the relentless stressors of modern life, chronic sleep deprivation, processed food, environmental toxins, the never-ending psychological weight of responsibilities, the adrenals become overworked. Cortisol stays elevated when it should be dropping. The hormonal ecosystem becomes further disrupted. Sleep worsens. Weight increases. Energy collapses. Mood deteriorates. It is a cycle. And once it begins, it tends to compound upon itself unless something interrupts it. Here is what I want you to understand. Every symptom you are experiencing, the fatigue, the weight, the sleeplessness, the anxiety, the mood changes, the hot flashes, the brain fog, these are not separate problems. They are expressions of a single underlying imbalance. Your hormones are not the disease. They are signals. They are your body's attempt to tell you that something in its internal environment needs attention. I have to stop here and ask you something directly, because I've seen too many women let this moment pass. How long have you been living with this? How many months? Or years? Have you been waking up exhausted, pushing through days that feel heavier than they should, quietly wondering if this is just how the rest of your life is going to feel? How many times have you searched your symptoms online at midnight and felt the anxiety spike when nothing made sense? How many appointments have you left feeling unheard? What you are experiencing right now is not just aging. It is not anxiety. It is not depression. It is not you losing your edge. It is a hormonal imbalance, real, measurable, and addressable. And the longer it goes unsupported, the more entrenched these patterns become. I want to tell you about something. Over the past several years, I've seen a quiet revolution happening in the world of women's hormonal health. Women who had tried everything, every diet, every sleep protocol, every conventional approach, finding genuine relief through a different path. Not through synthetic hormones with long lists of side effects, not through medications that mask the symptoms without addressing the cause, but through targeted, natural support that works with the body's own hormonal pathways to encourage rebalancing from the inside out. Thousands of women over 40 have been quietly discovering this approach and reporting changes they didn't think were possible anymore. Better sleep within weeks, weight starting to shift without extreme measures, mood stabilizing, energy returning in ways that feel sustainable, not forced, hot flashes becoming less frequent, less intense, brain fog lifting, that sense of feeling like themselves again. That is what I hear about most. Not feeling 30 again, feeling present, feeling steady, feeling like the woman they recognize when they look in the mirror. If that sounds like what you've been looking for, I want you to look at the link in the description of this video and in the first comment below. Thousands of women in your exact situation have started there. You don't have to have all the answers right now. You just have to take the next step. Now, I want to go deeper because I think you deserve to understand what is truly at stake here, not to frighten you, but because the truth is what allows you to make real decisions about your health. The hormonal changes of perimenopause and menopause are not simply about comfort. They have long-term consequences that extend well beyond how you feel on any given day. Estrogen has a protective effect on the cardiovascular system. As it declines, the risk of cardiovascular disease in women rises significantly, so much so that by the time a woman reaches her late 50s, her cardiovascular risk approaches that of men her age. This is not widely discussed. It is rarely mentioned in a routine checkup, but it is one of the most significant shifts in a woman's health trajectory that occurs during this period. Bone density is profoundly influenced by estrogen. The years surrounding menopause represent the period of greatest bone loss in a woman's life. Osteoporosis, fractures, loss of mobility, these are not inevitable consequences of aging. They are consequences of hormonal change that goes unsupported for too long. Cognitive function is another area where the research is sobering. The brain contains estrogen receptors throughout its structure. Estrogen supports memory formation, verbal fluency, processing speed, and the health of neural connections. Women who experience prolonged periods of low estrogen without any form of support show measurable changes in these functions over time. The brain fog of perimenopause, dismissed by so many clinicians as stress or anxiety, is a real neurological phenomenon, and it deserves to be taken seriously. Sleep deprivation, which becomes chronic for many women during this period, carries its own cascade of consequences on immune function, on metabolic health, on cardiovascular risk, on mental health, on cognitive aging. It is not a minor inconvenience. It is a significant health issue with compounding effects over time. I tell you this not to overwhelm you. I tell you this because women deserve to understand their own biology. Because the knowledge of what is at stake is what transforms a vague sense of concern into a clear decision to act. And here is the most important thing I want you to hear before we close. These changes are not a death sentence. They are not a cliff you fall off on your 50th birthday. They are a transition, one that can be navigated with far more grace, far more comfort, and far more vitality than the conventional medical system would have you believe. The women who navigate this transition best are the ones who do not wait until the symptoms become unbearable. They are the ones who recognize the signals early, who take the first steps before the imbalance has time to deepen and compound. They are the ones who, right now, are choosing to prioritize their health in a way they perhaps haven't before. That window, the window where your body still responds readily, where the patterns haven't calcified, where the work of rebalancing is most effective, that window is open right now for you. In this moment, I've watched women wait. I've watched them tell themselves it will get better on its own, that they don't have time, that they'll deal with it later. And I've watched the symptoms deepen, the sleep debt accumulate, the weight become more stubborn, the fog become more persistent, the anxiety become more constant, the distance between who they are and who they remember being grow. And I've watched women decide not to wait. I've watched them take one clear step and then another, and then find themselves months later describing a quality of life they thought was behind them. More energy than they'd had in years. Sleeping through the night again. Feeling calm in their own skin. Feeling like women who are not declining, but women who are, in fact, coming into their own. You are not too far gone. You are not beyond the reach of what your own body can do when it is properly supported. But your body needs that support now, not 6 months from now, not after the next stressful season at work, not after the next round of blood work that comes back normal. Now, the link in the description of this video and in the first comment below has helped thousands of women in exactly your position begin that journey. Women who felt what you feel. Women who had tried what you've tried. Women who had almost given up on feeling well again. And then didn't. The information there is grounded in the same science I've shared with you today, and it speaks directly to the hormonal realities of women over 40. You've spent years taking care of everyone else. You've pushed through exhaustion, through discomfort, through days that asked more of you than you had to give. You have been strong in ways that have cost you something. And you deserve to know that there is a different way forward, not a harder way, but a smarter one, a way that works with your biology instead of against it. Take this step for yourself. Check the link below. Your hormones are not failing you. They are asking for your attention, and the best time to give it to them is right now.